Hey, check it out. Here is this Gretsch that I posted yesterday that has a compensated nut that I made for it. Now, can you see that? There's an extra piece put in front of the original nut, and each slot is hand cut. Well, I use my Dremel. And I cut them so they have different distances to the first fret. So, tons of controversy, a lot of comments. A lot of people were just not having it, upset maybe, or just not understanding too. Some people were very analytical, trying to figure it out mathematically. Other people were like, "This is stupid." Some people said, "You're ruining the guitar, the idea of the guitar, because it's supposed to be not perfect, and you're trying to perfect something that's not perfect." This is so not what I was trying to do. The customer brought the guitar in and just said, "This guitar will not play in tune." And first thing I think of is it needs a setup, and you need to stretch your strings. Well, he had already paid for a setup. And when I went through and gave it the check, that person hit all of the checks. I mean, it was right. Nut height was perfect. Intonation was perfect. And there was room to go in either direction. That's the thing some people were saying. You cut the nut height too high, so you're pushing the string out of tune. No, that's not it. It was cut right before me. You ran out of saddle room. That's why you're doing this. Well, no, there was saddle room. Now there's not, since I had to change things. But before, there was room. It intonated at the 12th fret. Some people said the bridge is in the wrong place. But it's intonating at the 12th fret, but out of tune in this area here. And when I say out of tune, this is what it sounds. Now I retuned the guitar to mimic the way it sounded before. So it's purposely put out of tune up here on the tuners so you could hear it. I'll explain why. Okay, so some people might not care. It's on the edge. But if you're sitting there and you're playing songs and you're singing, you're writing songs, you're going to keep fiddling and you're going to change it. And then you're going to play another chord and you're going to change it again for that chord, and it's going to drive you crazy because it was a little sour. Well, the last tech who did the setup sent this guy off and said, "I'm done, play it the way it is." And the owner was like, "I got to go somewhere else." So he brought it here. And when I realized it was set up perfectly, I said to myself, "Man, what am I going to tell this guy? Am I going to send him away too?" And I said, "Keep thinking. There's things that you do. There's things that you have done. I do this so rarely, I almost forgot." I was like, "Ooh, let's check that nut. Let's check the compensation." And what I did was I played the open note and I played the first fret, and I noticed it went a little sharp on some of these. So now if it goes sharp and I shorten the string, right? Then I can then tune the string down so then it tunes at the right pitch on the first fret. You see what I'm saying? So in tune here, sharp here, tune it down here. Now that's in tune, and since we raised it here, that's in tune. And a lot of people were saying, "I don't understand how this makes any difference. The second you play a bar chord on the first fret, this has no meaning anymore." No, it does. It forces you to tune differently so that this note here, here, here is now shifted. And then that note there is compensated to make up for the shift. That's what we're talking about. Many people were saying, "I see, you're just trying to make the open notes play in tune." No, that's not at all. The open notes were in tune. I'm forcing the open notes out of tune so you can retune to get these notes in tune. I tried to write that so many times, and I looked back at my comments, and nobody liked my answer when I said that. I'm thinking either they didn't read it, or they did read it and they didn't like it. And a lot of skepticism here. So basically, another way I explained this was if you took a bar chord and you tuned the bar chord perfectly, that would make the nut out of tune, and then you would have to reshape the nut to get that in tune, and then you've got everything. So let me tune this thing again here to the place where it should be. compensated nut works. So. So, I didn't turn this into like some perfect digital machine now. It is better. Still not perfect, but you can play this thing and you're not gonna hate life. That's what I was trying to do. A lot of people were like, you've ruined the idea of the guitar. You're trying to perfect things too perfect. And now, there is a thing called compensated frets, where each fret is zigzaggy, is wiggly. And each one is different. There's some sort of CNC machine that will cut these frets all weird. Every single one looks insane. Looks like little worms, going across your fretboard. And then each note is perfectly in tune to where a piano would be. Now I think you've gone too far at that point, because you're trying to get a guitar too perfect, and there is some beauty in slightly off notes. So I'm actually in agreement with those people. But this is not that situation. This guitar still isn't perfect, but it is just playable now. Like I said, now I'm just fudging things in a different direction when this here fudges things in a different direction, and we're trying to move things closer. Not perfect, but closer. Obviously, if you push too hard, you'll push it out of tune, so there's some technique involved. So I'm just trying to get it within like the realm of basic technique, so everything stays. I try and mimic other people's technique, especially if they're acoustic guitar. Acoustic guitar players will push harder than an electric guitar player, so you got to kind of mimic their guitar to that style. Now, I will put a wound G on a guitar where somebody just plays acoustic all the time and then picks up an electric. But this customer said he wants to do some of that, so I can't hit him with a wound G. I got to make this work with the lighter strings. So. Now, the true test is when the customer picks it up and plays it for a week or so. I don't know, he may not like it. I may have to go back in there and change it. But so far, I've done maybe about 12 of these over like 30 years, and everyone has liked it. So I'm hoping that this time it'll be good. But there you go. That's a compensated nut. And I know a lot of the people who are mad may have been techs, and they say, I know everything there is to know. I don't do that. You may not even come across one if you haven't done that many repairs yet, because it's going to happen so rarely. And like I said, I almost forgot that I do this sort of thing. But keep it in the back of your mind, because you may have to do it. There are products called Irvana and Buzz Feiten. Now, Buzz Feiten, you actually have to route off some of the fretboard and put the nut in. And I'm like, I don't want to route someone's fretboard with binding and everything on the edges and set that jig up. It's got to be a better way. So that's why I glue the thing on the front. And it doesn't look perfect, but it doesn't look horrible either. I think it's doable. And like I said, so far everyone has loved it, and now I don't know what's off. I personally think they cut the nut. I think they cut I think the fretboard was too long. I think they should have taken more off the fretboard, and that would have moved the nut in the middle of my compensation, and then everything would have been closer. So I just think they missed it. So I could have taken some of the fretboard off, moved the nut up, and that could have made it a lot closer, not perfect. This went through and is compensated, so technically this is better than just moving the nut. But that's my theory. It went through the machines, the tolerances were off, the fretboard was a little long from here to here. So that is my only theory that I have that explains why it missed. And production guitars will miss sometimes. Fretboards will move a little bit when they glue them. Necks will be installed a little further down, and that will make this in the wrong spot. You put the fretboard on a certain place here and it's up too far. Maybe there's maybe they leave a lot of extra up here and they take it off after it's on. I don't know what they're doing. But there's this spot here with this angle. It all has to come together with the truss rod and everything. And if they miss the cut, you're going to miss this distance from here to there. So guitar making can be, this is the hardest part of the guitar making right here, making this measurement meet this measurement and meet this measurement. It'd be different if it was all carved out of one piece, but the fretboard is separate and it has to be put in a certain place. And things shift a little bit, fret slots shift, the board shifts, everything shifts a little bit, and then as long as other tolerances make up for it, you can be in a good situation. But if they're all off in the wrong direction, and then everything is off. So that's probably what's happening with this one here. Well, that's the only thing I got to say about it. Hopefully that clears some stuff up. Compensated nut.